Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 137 of Nerd Pod Generations. As always, I am one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Jetsam. Hello, sir.
Hello, friends and enemies.
It's been a week, buddy.
Oh my God, has it been a week?
It's been a week.
Jesus
I gotta say,
God.
though, I've ingested more content this week, mainly over the last 2 days, than I have in a lot of previous weeks.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
I'm there with you. There was a definite push in my mind that I was like, you know what? Instead of being on YouTube, I'm gonna go back and visit some things I haven't checked out in a while.
Yeah.
And we're gonna spend a little time doing this.
And it makes it nice.
Yeah, it makes a nice change up.
So, folks, episode 137, meaning the 136 previous episodes, which are all gold, and you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure to also go to youtube.com. And if you want to just get all of the goodness into one picture, go to NerdPodGen. That is NerdPodGen.com, our actual website, which has links to everything, including Al's personal website on
JetsumStudios.work under the Bronx Division tab.
Thank you so much. And it's got some of my works, and it's got links to all of our stuff for show, for Spotify, for YouTube. Make sure if you go to one of those sites to like and subscribe. And we do have a contact page on our website, so you can contact us, let us know what you think about the show, give us topics you might want us to cover, maybe movies we haven't thought about that you would like us to watch and kind of give our impression on. We're up for anything.
All the things. It's
Yes.
alive. It's
Yes.
alive.
I mean, we have no problem finding content.
No.
But
We can manufacture content
Yes.
if we need to.
I mean, there's a lot coming out. There's even I know this might not be your gig, but my son's dying to see it. There's the new Knuckles TV show on Paramount Plus.
I haven't watched any of the Sonic movies yet, and I am thrilled.
See, the Sonic movies, I gotta admit, are fun. They're not good movies. They're okay movies. The second one leaned more on the humans, which is dumb because no one gives a shit about the humans.
This is exactly my point, though. Why are the humans there in the first place? Like, if it took place in Sonic's reality, which does canonically have humans, as far as I know from what I've seen, why the fuck are we doing this 90s-ass plot where Sonic comes to our world?
Yeah.
And has to deal with problems in
I gotta say, the first one, the humans actually were fun, and they kind of played a role. Where the second one, they were too much of the story, and that kind of brought it down. But I do love Idris Elba as Knuckles, and so I'm very excited to see the TV show just because of that.
I'm just saying, in the same way that we had the Snyder Cut,
What?
I think it's time to release the ugly Sonic Cut. If you're
They kind of did in Rescue Rangers.
But I want just Sonic as they imagined it
no
to
way
be,
that still exists.
as they envisioned it once upon a time.
There's no way that still
They
exists.
burned that.
But I do give them credit for letting Chip and Dale parody it.
Yeah, well,
because
they let them parody it, and the most big kind of like Disney saying "fuck you" to everybody else who's tried to parody them for decades. Disney turned around and was like, fair play. You've been suing people for decades over this kind of use, but you're going to come around, oh, it's parody, it's a parody. Sorry. This is editorializing.
Yeah, it is editorial. But anyways, I got to say, I'm very excited about the show this week, folks. I'm not going to say everything we're going to go over because the second thing we may or may not hit. But the big thing we are going to hit is the first 7 episodes, which is that the whole season?
No, I think there's 2 more episodes.
There's 2 more episodes of X-Men 97. We've watched this first 7 that are out.
Yes.
And we'll let you know what we think about that. But we do start every episode with what have we been watching, playing, reading. Do you want me to go first or do you want to hit it?
I'll defer.
Okay, so a couple things that you're going to talk about, it's kind of a joint thing. So the one thing with me that has been separate is the MCU journey that my son and I are on.
We need a name for this segment. It's Ethan Walks the MCU, Steve's Rejourneys.
It's GROAN. That's what it is, GROAN. Because as we're getting closer to Infinity War, I'm starting to see the cracks in the armor. And then after Infinity War is when it goes precipitously downhill because, once again, Endgame I'm not a huge fan of. I appreciate it. But then it's just downhill. So I know I'm getting to that, let's call it the Star Wars prequel part where I'm like, I know I'm going to have to watch this.
The breaking point.
It's the breaking point. But we actually watched 2 movies. Doctor Strange and Black Panther. Doctor Strange, I actually enjoyed more than I remembered. It's not perfect once again. There are issues with it. I really love Mads Mikkelsen and I love Tilda Swinton. and I thought they both really were excellent in this. I know you gotta have a love interest. The Rachel McAdams thing was kind of like a throwaway. Like, it wasn't even.
This is a big issue for me, is that they push so hard for this relationship.
Yeah.
And I just never buy it.
No.
I just never buy that this is the one thing on earth that Steven truly loves.
Yeah.
Is Christine.
No, it's himself. It was in the comic.
He's like the greatest narcissist of all time.
Yeah, he is like Tony Stark, and that's why I love in Infinity War when they're kind of bashing, because they are both insane narcissists, and it's like, and it really felt so unnecessary in this movie. It's like you already have enough stakes and enough. Like, the focus on him just getting his life back is enough. You don't necessarily have to have the love interest part of it.
Yeah.
Especially because I like Rachel McAdams, and she was so underutilized in this movie. Like, it's like, once again, it was Marvel not knowing how to write female characters, where it's like...
There's so many characters like that fall into that gap, because you have, what's his name? Michael Stuhlbarg.
Yeah.
Who plays the rival doctor. And he's great. If you've watched him, you've seen him in Shape of Water. You've seen him in Call Me by Your Name. There was one Oscar season where he was just in all the movies. Every single movie, he was somewhere in there.
And Boardwalk Empire, he was a major character in that show.
And he's here doing nothing.
No. He's actually this, and they even say it, Rachel McAdams says it, he's a brilliant surgeon, just not as good as Doctor Strange. And they turn him into a joke when he's getting stuff out of the vending machine, and then Doctor Strange's spirit goes through it and knocks more stuff, and he goes to take it. It's like, dude, this guy's like one of the best surgeons in New York City. He's rich as hell, and you're going to make him run after free chips?
Well, and he's an incredibly good character actor on top of it. So, like, what's the... I don't understand.
Oh, it was...
But, like, this was my issue with Mads as well. Mads, for as good as he might be in that role, that is not a role worthy of Mads Mikkelsen.
No.
This is a nothing burger.
I
this
agree.
should have been... You could have easily done the mindless ones for this.
Yeah.
Which are... aptly named, and they are just the servants of Dormammu.
Yeah.
And there's some, like, I've seen this done in an anime. This is always the thing that I come back to. There is a animated Doctor Strange movie from the early to mid 2000s.
I remember that one.
It's essentially the exact same story done 10 times better.
Yeah.
And it gets rid of all the stupid fat and the garbage and the stuff that immediately disables you from taking it seriously. The Wi-Fi password, the fucking cape, the joke about, oh, his name is Strange. And all the they go back to that well so many times. And then on top of all of this, this is your interpretation of Dormammu, which then everybody falls in love with. That's what really pisses me off about some of the MCU things, is that you have these terrible renditions of characters, and then everybody's like, oh, but Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Yeah, you know what? You know what I would have liked to have seen? I would have liked to have seen a version of Dormammu who has an eighth of the power that he has in the comic books, because that still would just shatter the reality that you've given us. This is so dumb.
And that was another thing, is the villains, and, like, once again, I love Mads Mikkelsen. When he was on screen, he was great. He wasn't on screen nearly enough. And Dormammu wasn't on screen nearly enough.
Dormammu was a MacGuffin that turned into a nothing twist.
Yes,
and that's it. And that's Dormammu. And if you didn't know, you would think, oh, Dormammu, he can't tell time. He doesn't know what time is. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm begging you, watch just like 3 episodes. There's 3 episodes that have Dormammu in them of the Spider-Man, the animated series from the 90s. And you will see a fraction of what Dormammu should be. And how this is just a terrible version of the character. Like an awful, you want to talk about punts? This is like punting at the opponent's 30-yard line. You might as well just kick a field goal. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, it was, like I said, it's not a perfect movie by far. I think, once again, I'm enjoying some of these movies more, like Thor: The Dark World, because I now have the comparison of what's come after Endgame.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck. I mean, Thor is like an Oscar contender compared to some of the shit. Not Thor, Doctor Strange, compared to some of the shit that's come out.
Yeah. Well, Thor, the first Thor, is artistically much more interesting than
Kenneth Branagh as a director.
This is exactly what I'm getting at. He's a more interesting director who was given more leeway with the script. They basically said, do a Shakespeare superhero movie. And he was like, okay. And he makes it interesting to look at, and admittedly needs to have the light recranked on the color correction, because Lord knows you can't see a goddamn thing in that movie. But now it's just everything is the same cookie cutter nonsense. Just like chill the dough, roll it out, press out the characters, pop them out, put them in the oven. New Marvel movie. And I was like, this is bullshit, man.
Well, and that's going to lead me into Black Panther. Okay. Black Panther, and this is the first time I've watched it in quite a while. It was the first of all of the Marvel movies that really leaned into what you just said, the dough roll out, follow this line. And it did it to a horrible extent. Like, I once again, I like the movie. I like the costume design. I like the cultural look of it. This movie, in the beginning, the scene where he jumps out of the, let's say, helicarrier thing and fights to get Nakia back, is so dark. You can't see what's going on.
Yeah, I do remember
And, like,
that.
even Ethan's like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like, I know. And there were a couple fight scenes in this movie that it was so dark.
Yeah.
You couldn't see what's going on. It's like your main character dresses in complete blackness, and you're going to have him in a fight scene. I don't know where he is. It looks like they're fighting a ghost.
And that's a problem that will come back again later on.
Yes.
At the end of the movie. But, like, also, just the thing that drives me crazy is that too many Marvel movies have this problem.
Yes.
Especially knowing that they have a specific color correction grade that they use for all the movies. That is, in some ways, what helps tie the universe together, is that everything is kind of on the same palette. But you look at this and you're just like, well, you chose this.
Yeah.
You chose to crank it to this level. This is not okay. I can't see anything.
And then a lot of the fight scenes, like insane camera angles and quick cuts, which made it kind of tough to follow what was going on.
I still like the two waterfall fights. I still think those are both really, really well executed fight sequences.
The ones I'm talking about are mainly the ones where he's in the suit.
Okay.
Like in
the
Korea. It's just like so much is going on and it's so insane. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Taking their helmets off every 3 seconds.
Yep.
In the middle of fights.
Yep.
Big in this movie.
And they're still supposed to be, at the beginning of this movie, a secret nation.
Yes.
A secret goat farming nation.
Yeah.
And the prince of this nation, who is a public figure that everybody knows after everything that happened in Civil War, is now running around in Korea with a super suit that's out of this world.
And expensive vehicles. And people are still like, oh, it's still a goat nation until the very end.
Yeah.
We're in a situation, it looks like we're going to die. What's going to happen? Something saves us. Happened 4 times in this movie. And it reminded me of Ant-Man Quantumania, where I'm like, you're not going to die. Someone's going to come and save you.
Yeah.
And someone came and saved you, and that happens. And then the big thing is, these were 2 of the best villains. And Claw and Killmonger, great villains. You got to kill them off in the fucking movie. Why? Like, Andy Serkis, I'm watching him, I'm like, this dude is so perfect at this part, and he chews the scenery, and he has the look, he has this awesome look, and you're gonna fucking shoot him, even off camera, like, he's pointing the gun at him, you know he's gonna shoot him, and then he kills him, and then Killmonger getting killed. I'm like, these 2 are so great, and you're just gonna take them out of the Marvel Universe because we gotta kill the villains. We can't just arrest them. We have to kill them.
I have a solution to this, because I think Killmonger accepting his death at the end of the movie is done for thematic reasons, less so than we just got to do it because this is the formula. You know what would help with the whole Claw thing? And I know it's crazy because this is a superhero idea and a very serious Oscar-nominated film. At most points in Claw's history, he becomes a being made out of sound via vibranium. You can't kill him because he's made out of sound. And he can clone himself and do all these things. And he's a complicated, dynamic character that'd be very interesting to see from Andy Serkis after everything that he's presented us with. And you could do him as a CGI character, which I know you just fucking love. So why didn't you do that?
Yeah. Oh, and it's like, why wouldn't you make him a CGI character knowing he is the greatest motion capture actor in history?
I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like how, and I know that they're finally getting to it, but listen, time's ticking. It's been, 15 years? Where's the leader been this whole time?
Yeah.
And now you're finally going to address it, and great, but I do have to ask, what about the whole time? Because if this is going to be another issue with Eternals where it's just like, oh, no answer, that's not acceptable. It's just patently not acceptable.
Yeah.
So I got to know what the fuck you're doing, because I don't think you have a plan.
I really don't think they know what the fuck they're doing, to be honest with you. There's two bright spots. One, the late, great...
Chadwick
Boseman was awesome in it, as always. Same with Michael B. Jordan. The two of them are just so fucking good. But I do love the scene where Martin Freeman is interrogating Andy Serkis, and you're like, oh, there's Bilbo and Gollum having a conversation.
See, here's the thing, is that's the only good thing about that sequence.
Yeah.
Everything else about that scene I hate. But
the rest of the scene is bad.
I also just don't like this interpretation of Claw just in general. I think that they start with a good mold, but by the end of it, he's a Family Guy character. And it's just so over the top and silly and dumb.
And like the introduction of him in this movie in the art gallery was kind of sweet, especially where he makes the guy run and then shoots him. He says,
that was good.
Because you could tell he's done this before and he knows you want to make it look messy.
Yeah.
And and then it was a little like having him laugh all the time. And
the mixtape is still where I get lost.
Yeah.
Is when he talks ad nauseum about his mixtape and his music career and all these things. You're a doctor.
Yeah.
What happened to Dr. Ulysses Claw? Because that would be fascinating, as if he was one of those kind of Harley Quinn style doctors who is still super smart and super there, but also just doesn't give a shit about societal norms.
Well, we're going to talk about one kind of Mr. Sinister in the X-Men.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a brilliant scientist and doctor who just is evil as shit and wants to look like Colossus. But yeah, so it was, it was a mixed bag on both.
Yeah.
I liked Doctor Strange more than the last time I saw it, and I liked Black Panther a little less because I guess I didn't, after seeing the movies that have come out since Endgame and getting that, that formula down of what they do, and seeing this is like the first movie that they really laid into that formula very hard.
See, I have to watch it again because I remember this movie feeling like a breath of fresh air after Doctor Strange and Civil War and Age of Ultron and Ant-Man.
I was the same way until I watched it again.
So I got to watch it again because I really still have very fond memories of this movie. I know that the third act fight scene is the parts underground are bad. The parts above ground are really good.
Yeah.
I really like the sentiment and style and storytelling and narrative of the movie. I would still like to have less Martin Freeman. We don't need to have him flying around in a jet. That's perfectly fine.
It feels to me like they were trying to make him the new Coulson. It's like, all right, we killed off Coulson. Killed off, I do, quote fingers.
Is he alive or is he not? Shield. And Deadpool, we're going to get to Deadpool in a second too. You better fucking address this, at least in a joke, somewhere.
That would be nice.
You should be the one to bring this up.
The fact that he is 100% alive, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon.
They won't say that.
They won't, except for there was an episode right before Age of Ultron came out that had Nick Fury, and Agent Coulson at the end of the episode goes in and there's helicarriers. And then if you remember in Agent Ultron, he said, I had a friend that got this out of mothballs. That was the connection between the show.
That's the only connection.
Well, it had Lady Sith was in a few of the episodes.
This is the thing. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is connected to the MCU.
Yes.
The MCU has said, no, that's not my kid. That is, I think, the only time that the MCU ever references Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in any way. But how many times does Maria Hill show up? Maria Hill, who knows Coulson is alive.
Yeah.
And she's working with the Avengers. How many times does she show up and not mention this at all? And listen, I get it. Maria Hill sucks as an individual. I'm not arguing that. We all know that to be true. In all canon, she at some point sucks. She does something and you're like, man, you suck. I don't like you. What is this? This has become one of those things where you're trying to pass it off as like a narrative choice. Like, we decided not to address this And that was what we decided to do. And it's like, that's not...
It didn't make any sense.
That's just bullshit, man.
Yeah.
This is just bullshit.
Yeah.
You can't have this whole structure that I'm supposed to be like going through each individual piece. Oh, look at... Oh, and the craftsmanship. Oh, look at this. And then you have this giant hanging Chad that's like an amusement park outside. And you're like, no. I mean, like... My mom made me let my brother set up his stupid flea circus next door. He is not associated with this. And meanwhile, the flea circus is like, the great MCU flea circus in town. And it's just like, this is mixed messaging, dude, at best.
And what's sad about that is if it's not canon, which I really hoped it was, because they did, of all the bad that they did in that show, they did Ghost Rider really right.
And they did Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider.
Yes, and it was fucking spectacular, and I wish he would make a transition into the MCU.
Well, now they're talking about if they do Ghost Rider, they want to bring it back to Johnny Blaze.
And
it's just like, you gotta decide what to do, man.
Good.
You gotta decide what to do. You can't keep going back and forth on this shit. And it just drives me crazy.
Because, like, to me, is as much as it's become a caricature and not serious, I hear Johnny Blaze, I'll always think Nick Cage. Because he was so over the top in that movie, both movies, that I will always think that. So it's like, go Robbie Reyes.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just like they should have for Spider-Man, and I know we're not going to get into it, they should have done Miles Morales instead of Peter Parker.
Do both.
You've done Peter so much. You could do both.
Do both.
Especially with the multiverse coming up.
Well, not only that, you had, in the original, you have Sam Elliott as kind of the first Ghost Rider, and he passes the buck on to Johnny Cage. Or Johnny Blaze.
Not Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Cage.
Yeah. We're mixed.
Why not do that? Why not have Johnny Blaze be somewhere in the universe?
Yes.
And he has some call up where him and, I can't remember the name of the demon, Xanthropos or whatever his name is. Now there's a new problem. We have to go back to Johnny Blaze, this one guy I used to be bonded with ages ago, and he's gonna help us solve it. Like, there's interesting ways to do it, but this is always the problem with the MCU.
Yeah,
there's always interesting ways to do it, and then they say, nah, you know what's cool? Clay art.
Yeah, the dumb way to do it.
I'm gonna do this like a 5-year-old, and everybody's gonna be like,
And my last thing before we move on to you, I want to do a quick shout out. If you have not seen the SNL Beavis and Butthead clip yet, you got to watch that. Because Heidi Gardner, who is one of the main cast members, it's a scene, have you seen it?
I've seen clips.
Where she's interviewing Kenan Thompson, and he looks behind her, and it's Ryan Gosling as Beavis.
And Mikey Day.
As Butthead, and she had not seen the final makeup, so when she turns to see them, she
breaks.
Absolutely, breaks hard.
Shatters.
And they play it, especially Mikey Day. Holy crap, they play it so perfect as these just guys that look like them, because he's like, I don't know who you're talking about, and they have normal voices. It is hysterically funny. I just wanted to throw that as a shout out.
I'll have to check that out.
It's really good.
All right, so we're gonna just touch on this really quick, because I can't imagine a world where we don't. Because Deadpool and Wolverine,
yes,
the newest trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine has come out. Here's my thing: does it look good? Yeah, but conceptually, argumentatively, what they're pitching us looks good. A Wolverine from a dead universe. Deadpool's universe is suffering an incursion event, which is how it's going to go into the core Marvel canon. We have a lot of TVA nonsense. We have a giant Ant-Man. See, this is why it gets confusing. Giant Man didn't have a helmet. He had a cowl. Ant-Man has a helmet so he can communicate with ants.
I saw, because I didn't know what that was either, but then I saw a comic book screen that it was like a large Ant-Man body. So it's like he grew.
See, but this is my thing: is that
at
some point you have to be Giant Man, right? There's a point where Ant-Man becomes Giant Man. It goes Ant-Man, Hank Pym, Giant Man, right? So my argument is, I get confused because in the canon of Giant Man, whether you're talking about Giant Man or Goliath, either version of Goliath, any of the 3 versions of Goliath, none of them had a helmet. So whenever I see a helmet on Giant Man, I'm always like, huh. It's a solely me problem.
Yes.
But it does, I do end up in the situation where I'm like, but it's a Giant Man helmet, but that's oxymoronic because Giant Man doesn't have a helmet. But I guess he does. but he's not really Giant Man.
Well,
he's
the only
just
thing I
big
can think of
Ant-Man.
is they're playing off of Civil War.
Oh,
and
no, absolutely.
Endgame.
Listen, I get it. I totally understand what they're doing. I am merely getting stuck in the syntax of I love Hank Pym. I love Giant Man. I love that late 60s era Avengers where the yellow and the blue and the Wasp and it's so good. Before he loses his mind, pre-Ultron, great stuff. So I when every time Hank Pym comes up, I'm always kind of sensitive about how it's being approached. And so I see this and I'm just kind of like, no, it's fine, but it just reminds me of all the dumb shit we've done. That's really what the problem is.
And I'm wondering if there will be a fourth wall break thing about...
Oh, that's the only thing that I can hope for with this entire movie is that it's all fourth wall breaks.
I hope he trashes. Just constantly trashes the MCU.
I can only hope because it looks like this takes place in some liminal space between universes.
Yes.
As these universes collapse into each other, the space grows bigger and pretty soon it's going to collide with the MCU or some nonsense like that. And so now Deadpool has to try and keep his universe from falling into this liminal space. So he's going around to the TVA to find out who can help him with that. And they're like, because it's Deadpool. He's going to be the one to bring up Wolverine. And they're going to be like, we don't have Wolverine. Here's this bad Wolverine. And that's where we're going to get him. Also, I'm hoping you're just saving the cowl for the Thing and that you're not spoiling it for us. And but there better be a fucking cowl.
Oh, I think there'll be a cowl.
There better be a fucking cowl.
And not only should there be a cowl, there better be multiple jokes from Deadpool about Wolverine's height.
Yeah.
There has to be
multiple. Several references to him being too tall.
Yes.
Like every time they cut away and then cut back to them talking and walking, Deadpool should be bringing up, but no, I know for a fact.
Yes.
You're less than 5'5".
Yeah.
And I'm looking at you, and you're just clearly 6'2", but I know for a fact.
So there, and I have faith that Ryan Reynolds will put that in.
Yeah.
So there's got to be.
Because they gave us this kind of bait with the cocaine line at the end of the trailer.
Yes, which was awesome.
Which was funny. But ultimately, this is what I come back to is just but how are these puzzles going to fit together, man? Yeah. And you don't have any credit in the bank for me to be like, yeah, it's going to work. Everybody just hold faith. It's going to be fine. I don't know how this is going to work. I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but I am saying that I'm going to come in anticipating it being a C+ movie, which is heartbreaking, but I don't know what else to do at this point with the MCU.
See, and the MCU doesn't have any credit in the bank for me, but I am still one of those people that really like Deadpool 2. I know some people...
I love Deadpool 2.
And I have faith in Ryan Reynolds. Because it's you were able to not only do Colossus right, but you did Juggernaut fucking right.
Exactly. They did the whole line. And their cable was really good and engaging.
Awesome, yep.
And there's just so many things that they have done well in the past.
Yes.
And I so very badly want to believe that they will do it well here. But this is the first time they've had to deal with the Marvel brass. And we know that Marvel chases actual artists away with their behavior.
See, my only hope with this is Marvel has really not had a hit movie since... God, when was
Endgame?
No, not Endgame. Well, I mean, if you consider the Spider-Man No Way Home,
Endgame was still a bigger movie.
Yeah,
just in terms of box office, Endgame still.
No Way Home got almost $2 billion.
It still made a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but Endgame made the most money of all time.
Not having that joint Sony Marvel thing, there hasn't been an MCU hit. Yes,
I think the last one was No Way Home.
Yeah,
was the last time that people were actually excited about a Marvel. A new thing in Marvel. And that, again, is fully based on nostalgia.
Yes.
You have to be nostalgic for every Spider-Man movie that has come out so far.
Exactly.
Which we're going to get to with my next thing, because we gotta keep moving. We got a whole show to do.
Yeah.
But, I look at Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm excited for jokes about why Wolverine gets rid of his sleeves at one point and all these other things. I just have no reason to believe that this ship's going to sail. It looks great.
It does.
It looks great in the harbor, but you know what? When Thor, the Funny Thor, when the trailer for Thor, the Funny Thor came out, and they had the goats, and they had all these things, and you were like, oh, maybe it's going to be good.
No.
Not a chance.
We'll see. We'll
see. We'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed.
I'm coming in with low expectations as a self-defense mechanism, and also to give them a chance. You know, I came in with pessimism in a lot of these last couple movies. I'm trying to come in with just low expectations and not necessarily full-ass pessimism. Like, I'm not... When I watched the Black Widow movie, I was so pessimistic about the whole thing, and then I ended up hating it.
Yes.
Which I don't think was because I was pessimistic coming in, but it didn't help.
Yeah.
So, like...
That's true. That is true.
You know. Anyway.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see how that goes.